If I asked you to do a speedrun of Star Ocean 2 right now, how would you do it? This question is actually a bit more complex than one might think, because when it comes to games like Star Ocean 2, you have multiple versions and storylines to choose from. Would you pick the remaster, with the enhanced visuals and the quality of life changes? Or would you pick the PS1 version, opting for the original experience with some of the greatest voiceovers of all time?
Yeah! Slash! Die! Break apart!
Today, I want to tell you how runners blaze through each version of Star Ocean the second story, and the challenges they have to overcome when taking on this timeless classic. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Hey friends, did you know that when a number goes up in RPGs, you get stronger? Did you also know that water is wet? How about being tired is the leading cause of sleep? Well, if you're tired of me asking these questions, check out this video's sponsor, Manta Sleep. The Manta Sleep Mask is exactly what I need when I want a good night's sleep. This thing feels super cool and comfortable, and it's easy to move around to get the right fit. I tend to roll around when I sleep, and thanks to the Manta Pro Sleep Mask unique C-shaped eye cups, it doesn't matter if I'm on my back or on my side, they stay on perfectly. I'm not usually a fan of sleep masks or anything on my face when I'm trying to sleep, but to be honest with you all, I'd let my Manta Sleep Mask smother my eyeballs any day of the week because it's so comfy. There's huge sales coming up, including a last chance deal where you get big savings site-wide the more you buy. Go to mantasleep.com and use my code DRSwell to get a cool 10% off, or use my link in the description. Don't miss all the sales happening this holiday season, and thanks again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. The PS1 version of Star Ocean 2 is our first stop, and there's two scenarios to choose from when playing the game. Claude's story and Reyna's story have variations, such as what characters can be used and what kind of cutscenes you'll get, but overall the strategies are pretty similar. Right off the bat, there's a massive exploit runners used in the PS1 release that allowed them to not get random encounters. By going into your killer moves menu and switching one of them, your encounter rate resets. This means that only scripted fights are required, such as bosses, saving a ton of time. The route is actually very linear and mostly the same across all three games. The first half of the game is on the planet Expel, with the goal of finding the sorcery globe that is the cause of the planet's monster problems. Simplifying this to the main cities after Arlia, you go to Salva, Cross, and Cross Cave, Mars, Liqueur, Linga, and Linga Sanctuary, Hoffman Ruins, Liqueur Frontline Base, and finally Illuria Tower. After meeting the 10 Wise Men and going to Energy Need, starting from the central city, you go to North City, then the Cave of Crimson Crystals to get a Synard, the 4 Fields of Power, Wisdom, Love, and Courage, the town of Armlock, Menai Cave, Fun City, and lastly the Tower Final to face off against the rest of the Wise Men. When it comes to combat in the PS1 version, runners will do what they can to juggle enemies between their active character and their other party members. This is done by setting up certain battle formations and changing character AI settings depending on the fight. Since this version of Star Ocean 2 doesn't have an armor or revenge mechanic, combat isn't a major challenge. There are some instances where offensive items and spells are used, but abilities like Claude's Dragon Roar pretty much cover everything. Still, bosses will quickly outscale characters as people reach the mid to late game, so how do runners handle the lack of grinding? There's a big focus on getting money, equipment, and stats as soon as possible. This is accomplished by putting points into specific item creation skills, specialty skills, and battle skills. Runners will start out with Perseverance to lower overall costs, but then go with stat increasing skills like Kitchen Knife and Scientific Ability to improve damage output. To get a bunch of full for weapons and consumable items, points are put into Playfulness, which instantly gives you money. However, due to the lack of grinding, runners need to solve for not having enough points to put in their skills. From the very start of the game, runners look to see if their character is even worth using. Star Ocean 2 randomly assigns a talent to a party member when they join, including the main characters. These talents help with things like item creation and specialty skill success rates, such as originality for gear customization. For specialties you don't have talents already there for, you can learn some of those talents at random when you use a specialty. For example, If you use the familiar specialty, you have a chance to learn the Love of Animals talent, and when you learn a new talent, you get a free 100 SP. Runners carefully plan out their money and experience route to hit these bonuses at the right time, giving them enough stats to scale as the fights get harder. Like I mentioned a bit ago, equipment is very important for the run, focusing on both getting as much damage as possible and protecting yourself from instant death. For the first couple of hours, runners use weapons they get from chests such as the Flame Blade, but if you know anything about this game, nothing compares to one of Claude's most powerful weapons in the run, which you get the main component for just 2 hours into the run. The sharp edge you get from Gamgee after the Liqueur tournament is great by itself, but you get a massive power boost when upgrading it to the Eterna. Supporting accessories like the Might Chain, Berserk Ring, and the Meteor Ring increase your attack drastically. Then there's others like the Green Barrel that give you immunity to certain elements, which is useful for bosses like Shin. Bunny Shoes are also stolen using the Pickpocket ability near the end of the game, doubling your movement speed, which is great for the final bosses. These are huge for combat, but one ore in particular called the Rainbow Diamond is essential in speedrunning. Rainbow Diamonds are equipable in the accessory slot and give you +1 level when using specialty skills. This increases the likelihood of success when using those skills or creating items, reducing the need for saving and reloading. Runners will even equip 2 Rainbow Diamonds at once since the effects stack, giving them the best possible chance to keep their runs going. This is especially important during the 4-minute menu on Need, moving the Rainbow Diamonds around while customizing equipment and using alchemy to generate ore. The party of choice in Claude's route ends up being Celine for offensive and defensive spells, Bowman to help deal some damage, and Noel for his spells in the end game. These choices also help evenly spread points for item creation and specialties, getting the most levels out of each character. For Reyna's route, instead of Bowman, DS is used, so you get to hear this for most of the run.
Air slash, air slash, air slash.
Things are not all that simple though, as there's a couple big hurdles for runs. The boss fight at Hoffman Ruins is a group of enemies that move fast and have hard-hitting attacks that come out almost instantly. They can also cast Thunderbolt, dealing a ton of AoE damage to your party. In Sasazaki's world record Claude run, he actually dies on this fight, but was quickly able to continue due to the save point right before it. The Camael, Raphael, and Zakiel fight can get out of control fast, so it requires pause buffering to dodge attacks and optimize item use. Claude's special art Dragon Roar keeps this fight and many others simple, with the ability easily stunlocking enemies that get caught. There's some instances where you can't win the fight, such as Sin or the initial Wiseman encounters, so runners will use mandrakes on themselves to end the fights faster. Between these boss fights, crafting, and customization RNG, as well as other small factors, the run isn't that bad. The final bosses aren't even that big of a threat on Galaxy difficulty, since runners can get through without a lot of effort. Sasazaki has both records for this version, getting a 448-14 with Claude and a 450-23 with Reyna, with no indication that these will be beat anytime soon. The next version of Star Ocean 2 is Second Evolution, which came out on the PSP, PS3, and PS4. The game plays similarly to the PS1 version, but has a few changes that make the run different enough to be interesting. First, there's no exploit to avoid encounters in this game, but this isn't a big deal because runners flee from them anyway, though this still results in the run being much slower than its PS1 counterpart. The good thing is there's a specialty skill that helps with this.
Come on, Bunny!
Come on, Bunny!
The Call Bunny specialty lets you do exactly what it says, summoning a bunny in the overworld for you to travel with. Not only is the movement speed faster, but you also can't get encounters, giving runners some reprieve on that front. Strats from the original run carry over to here as well, getting money, gear, and specialty levels as quickly as possible, but the menuing and gear differ in a few places. For example, there's shopping in Port Hilton that happens in this run, getting materials for Reyna to cook, so she gets that talent and then uses the 100 SP for full. This lets you buy a ton of ore at that shop, setting you up for weapon customization and gear creation. Oddly enough, Both of Sasazaki's records were not able to get in Eterna due to Claude losing the first fight in the Liqueur tournament, so this locks you out at the sharp edge, delaying your power spike until later. The Marvel Sword and Atlas Ring from the Field of Power are good replacements, with the Atlas Ring doubling your attack when equipped. The Atlas Ring also makes you vulnerable to all elements, but that doesn't matter much when you're pummeling bosses to death. There's a bigger reliance on items in this run, such as attack vials to deal more damage, and ointments of Veda to increase movement speed for all party members. This removes the need for things like the pickpocket specialty, and those points can go into other stat boosting categories. A bigger reliance on items means you need more of them, so replication plays a huge role here. I think this is one of my favorite game mechanics ever. It's like someone turned a Game Shark code into something you can actually use in a game, and it's super useful. This is used in all versions of the run on not only items, but accessories as well. Duplicating things like the Berserk Ring so it can be on Claude and Bowman, or Diaz and Reyna's route is essential for a fast run. The two runs are not that far off from the original, but the main difference with this version is the amount of saving that Sasazaki does prior to crafting and other bosses. Big item creation menus at Hoffman Ruins and Need don't have a 100% chance to give what you need, such as crafting Philosopher's Stones and then turning those into equipment during those menus. Using the music playing specialty to play Hail the Goddess is important because it increases the overall success of item creation, and if you combine this with Rainbow Diamonds, it gives you a good chance at getting the items you need. Overall, the run is still pretty straightforward. Both any % records are held by Sasazaki, with his Claude route coming in at 5:37:52 and his Reyna route coming in at 5:12:12 on the Earth difficulty. Most of the time difference here comes down to the cutscenes, since Claude's route has a huge one at Illyria Tower, as well as encounter rate variance between the two runs. In November of 2023, Star Ocean 2's remaster released, and it flipped everything we knew about the run onto its head. The amount of quality of life improvements this version has is insane. The biggest time save over the other versions was being able to skip every cutscene, saving hours over the original games. There's also a fast travel system in the overworld, towns, and dungeons, reducing the need for backtracking immensely. Menus are the fastest they've ever been, with you being able to skip animations when crafting materials, saving even more time. There's even missions now that give you items, equipment, or money when completing them. Runners take advantage of this at Cross, getting guild missions and using those to get talents, the 100 SP bonus from those, and additional levels on top of that. There's also challenge missions when completing specific feats in the run, giving even more rewards than the guild missions alone. All enemies are also visible in the overworld, and outside of a few exceptions, these encounters could be avoided. One of the big things runners take advantage of is the new specialty, Bodyguard. This lets your allies automatically attack overworld enemies, and if you're high enough level, they'll instantly defeat them, giving you money and experience. This helps with levels and stats, especially in the endgame when you need them the most. Another crazy thing about this version is that it features a new glitch that can't be done on the other releases. Normally, when you run to a ledge, you just jump off of it and fall to the lower platform. If you run into a wall and inch towards the ledge, you can jump early and drop down right after, all without hitting the platform below and going out of bounds. These specific out of bounds are used to skip big parts across cave, getting Selene earlier than intended. It's also used later on in the Cave of Crimson Crystals, but there's other ways to do this as well. If you switch party members near a ledge in Linga Sanctuary, you can clip out of bounds, getting to the end of the dungeon faster. Finally, there's a way to get out of bounds in the Field of Love by using fishing and then going off a bridge after an encounter, running straight to the boss room. These glitches are not easy to do, and even with proper setups, they require near frame perfect timing to execute. One speedrunner by the name of Bartza did find a way to get into the last room in Final Tower, but because story triggers are very strict in Star Ocean 2R, the room was empty and they couldn't progress. One of the big changes in this version is several of the dungeons are laid out differently, requiring runners to do puzzles that take up more time or navigate new areas not present before. Like the two previous versions, Claude's route uses Claude and Bowman, with Reyna's route using Claude and Diaz for damage. Getting overpowered is faster than ever, since runs now publish books to get specialty levels quickly, leading up to getting Claude's Eterna before Hoffman Ruins. On top of that, runners use experience cards to get double EXP from boss fights, with Claude reaching over level 90 by the end of the game. When it comes to boss fights, the new stagger mechanic makes stunlocking enemies almost impossible, so there's a bit more randomness when it comes to fights. Dealing damage is easier than ever thanks to the special art, Meteor Palm. This ability has a fast animation and a ton of hits, letting you melt enemies insanely fast. Runners make use of the typical offensive equipment here, but for survivability, they use something called Bloody Armor. This armor depletes your health constantly during battle in exchange for complete invincibility. Seems like a fair trade-off until you realize that Claude has the ability Sword of Life, which has a ridiculous healing effect. This combo is completely busted and turns the back half of the game into a joke. Compared to the other two versions of Star Ocean 2, this run is by far the fastest, with the Claude route coming in at 1:17:40 and the Reina route coming in at 1:20:14 by Nekomimi on Galaxy difficulty. I wasn't able to get footage for the Reina route due to the video being set to private. I've reached out to the runner to try to get the video back up, but I haven't received a response as of the date of this video's posting. Regardless, I hope you all enjoyed hearing about these runs, and if you learned something new, let me know in the comments, and drop a sub if you want to see me cover more topics similar to this one. Stay hydrated, folks, and thank you all so much for watching.